Previously on Gears.
Listen, Gary and Vic are still here, which is great to have them. They're going to be quite regulars on the show, hopefully, if they want to.
We want to. We'll be
Okay,
back.
there we go. We'll do that. The main thing is, Vic, going to bring you in here because this is an extraordinary test for Formula One. We don't really have a lot of in-season testing, but this one is a 4-day test at Mugello, and you got to believe that this is make or break for a lot of teams.
Well, exactly, Sasha. I think overall what we've seen, it's the first in-season test for many a year, voted in by all the teams in their entire, when they basically did their sort of work into what they were going to test this year. We know that a lot of teams make or break, especially for the Ferrari. It's important for them. What we've sort of heard is going to be almost a B-spec car that they're going to be bringing. They're not going to show all the updates at this test, so don't read too much into it. It's only at the Barcelona race we will see the full update come to the Ferrari car. A lot of teams trying to understand the tyres, as we've heard buzzword. Tyre management is the key throughout the entire Formula One season thus far. Michael Schumacher not particularly happy, but Rosberg very happy, and I think we as spectators are ecstatic for Formula One.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the tyres thing because I'm going to be writing an article a little bit later on my thoughts on this whole tyre issue. Gary Schumacher comes out there and goes, yeah, but we can't drive it all at our limits because we're trying to preserve the tyres. But it's the same for everyone.
Exactly the point. I was surprised to hear Michael Schumacher say that. I mean, we know him for driving in any kind of condition, whatever the tyres are, getting the maximum out of it. So what he's really saying to you is, well, I can't get the maximum out of myself on these tyres. So that is a big concern for Michael Schumacher. And, people are talking about him signing a new contract for next year. Well, if he's going to start battling with the tyres the way they are, it may be it's the lookings of the end of his career.
Yeah, I found that very, very strange. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to write about that actually, blog a little bit later on about that as well. Also, I mean, we saw in MotoGP over the weekend that Lorenzo came out and said he chose the wrong tyres. I mean, tyres, Vic, are playing a major, major factor. Pirelli and Lucas de Grassi, the test driver for Pirelli, said, listen, nothing wrong with our tyres.
Well, there's nothing wrong. Sasha, in pre-season testing, Michael Schumacher did come out and say that he was ecstatic with the tyres. It was going to be a step forward. We're going to see a fantastic show. Well, he was right. We did see a fantastic show. We are seeing a brilliant, brilliant Formula One season to date. 4 different race winners in the first 4 races. And Schumacher not particularly able to extract the maximum. And what is actually quite amazing is that he was able at the last race to ride at the same pace as his teammate, Nico Rosberg. So there's nothing wrong with his pace. I just think that, there's certain teams getting on top of the tyres a little bit quicker. Red Bull looked fantastic at the last race. So that's why this test is so, so important.
I just think he's hacked off that Kimi Raikkonen has come back to Formula One, has already got a podium and maybe nearly going to get a win. Speaking of the Lotus team, Romain Grosjean, fastest this morning, and it seems to be in dry conditions, which I think is really, really cool. Because yesterday a little bit damp, and Ferrari we know are pretty good in the wet. But Webber's second, he's 0.2 down. I think what is encouraging, and Vic mentioned it right at the beginning there, Gary, Ferrari, big test for them. Massa in 3rd position.
Yeah, looking good for Massa. But you know what I love about this test is that, Ferrari were the ones that instigated this test. They wanted this in-season test. Other teams weren't too keen on it. And not only did Ferrari get it right to get the test, but they got the test to go ahead at the track that they own and that they've done mega miles around. So you would expect to see Felipe Massa up there at this point in time. But let's hope it does work for the team. We know they're chasing big time. And, as we all know, it is a big test for them and hope they can get away with some positive results here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we just want to see a more contenders in the championship. That's basically what we're looking for. Everyone seemed to be doing a relatively decent amount of laps, Vic, except Force India. Paul di Resta, no time. I don't even know if he set any laps this morning.
No, not unfortunately the car not particularly there at the moment in time, but overall what you got to say, Romain Grosjean looked particularly fast, and what was quite impressive about his run this morning, Sasha, is that I think there were about a good 5, 6, 7 laps that would have easily made him the fastest guy of the entire session. It was only when Mark Webber put on some medium tyres towards the end of the session that he was able to come close. At that stage prior to putting those tyres on, Webber was 1.5 seconds slower than Romain Grosjean. So obviously the Lotus Renault, let's call it that, seems to be a really, really special little car, and it's up to the team to optimize it. They did bring a new floor, quite interestingly, at the last Bahrain Grand Prix, which gave them about 0.2 of a second. And it shows you how finely balanced it is. 0.2 makes such a big difference between a car that's probably midfield to a car that could potentially win the race. And Kimi Raikkonen and Romain Grosjean extracted the best out of it.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see how good this Lotus Renault car is as well. We've still got a bit of a break, and then, of course, Gary, we look forward to the Spanish Grand Prix next. Is it next week? weekend, the weekend after.
2 weeks
Still
time,
2 weeks'
yeah.
time. So, I mean, a bit of a 3-week gap. This test, pretty important for them. I just want to bring up one other point in F1. At the moment, a lot of talk in not only the Italian papers, but all over the place that Mark Webber is touted to take the place of Felipe Massa.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, and it's not an all too unsurprising deal that we have on the go there, because Massa, we know, hasn't performed this year. Mark Webber, I think, is becoming a great number 2 driver. We see how he's performing with Sebastian Vettel at Red Bull, and of course Red Bull have got Ricciardo, who's performing fantastically well at the moment, and we all know that is putting him in line for one of the top seats at Red Bull. So I wouldn't mind seeing Mark Webber in a Ferrari. I think it would be good for us. Great to watch.
Yeah, and also, Vic, I suppose, Ferrari are doing a bit of a clean-up. The one guy they haven't managed to clean out is the whole of the Todt family, and that's Nicholas Todt, who manages Massa. And I suppose it just makes a lot of sense. Flavio Briatore, the ex-Renault boss, manages both Alonso and Webber.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. There has been talk that Briatore has some sort of a role to play at Ferrari in the future. We don't know what that is.
Hopefully not to do with any of the money.
But at the end of the day, I think it'll be a very interesting swap if Webber does come in and see what he can do there. We are looking, I think Ferrari needs a strong number 2 driver to support Fernando Alonso. Alonso is doing unbelievable business with this car, still maintaining contact in the Drivers' Championship. And I think that's what we've got to see coming out of this Mugello test and coming out of Barcelona. If Ferrari can manage to do a really strong result, I think Alonso, with what he can pull out of this car, has got a very strong chance in the championship.
Yeah, we all look forward to the remainder of the season. Of course, here on Gears, I'll keep you updated. Gary, Vic, great to have you here. Thanks for your insights on Senna, also on your Formula One knowledge. And of course, we'll have you here quite regularly on the show. Thanks. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
At the next intersection, turn on Gears with Sasha Martinengo. Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time on bulls.co.za.